Now, why are we talking about ransomware protection? Well, we're talking about it because it's probably the biggest threat we're seeing right now. Everyone's concerned about it. It's growing. As we can see on the bottom left, 365% increase in detections. Top center, every 14 seconds, someone's falling victim to ransomware attack. In the bottom right, 60% of small to medium businesses close after falling to a victim of ransomware. So that's a really concerning statistic, right? If every 14 seconds someone's getting attacked and now 60% of them are failing, we definitely want to be able to help them to be able to recover that data and know when they got infected. Now we have a couple different methods that we use. These are some examples of email reports that we have out there. So we can look for known types of files that are associated with ransomware. So that's one way to find it. A second one is anomaly detection. This one's more kind of looking at what's changing in the environment. So this one, we don't even have to know about that particular type of ransomware. But if we see a lot of files are changing or a lot of new files are being created, then we can alert you based off that too. Now, not only do we do that via email, we also do it in our dashboard. So here we can see an example that I'm at 201% of files changing, or on the right, we can see specifically the numbers and do the math for ourselves. Now, with that being said, let's look at how easy it is to set up ransomware detection. Now here we're going to log into the Infrascale dashboard for the first time. Now what this does is it allows us to manage all the products that Infrascale offers, but it also allows us to manage all of the monitoring. And that's what we're going to look at this point, is we're going to look at monitoring. Now here at the top, we can see this is all kind of the standard monitoring that we've got, backups, how long it's been since there's a backup. But at the bottom, this is where we enable our anomaly detection. So here we turn these checkboxes on, and I like to call these our slider bars of paranoia. So you can move over and choose how many files you want changed to notify you and how many new files. Now, what if you are one of those service providers? So you're managing IT services for a lot of companies. Well, we can even go in and say manage companies. And we can go look at any one of those individual companies that we have out there. And we can actually configure their monitoring individually. So here we're going to look at the Orlando site. It's managed by me, Chris Bayne. Now, when I go into settings, monitoring, we can see that we have nothing configured. Now, underneath that, we have the option to enable these settings. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those on. I'll leave the default settings out there and hit save. Now, maybe you've got a customer that has some IT guys, or they want more micromanagement of what this alerting is. This gives you the ability to go in there and configure that in a per customer level, also at your level, so that you can make sure that you're not getting flooded with all these alerts and you kind of lose everything in those. Now, if we come in here,
Chris, this is Jim Jones. I do have a question. So I understand correctly. So by doing detection for ransomware, what you're saying is you're looking at change files only.
Change files and new files.
Okay. Is there any kind of tie-in looking for the actual root encryptor executable that gets dropped on a system or something like that? Or is it just literally looking for, I guess, you're saying it's new files and changes, right?
So we have new files, change files, and known file types.
Okay.
So that's kind of like we'll say fingerprint analysis for looking for something like that. However, this isn't a security product that's going to prevent that, right? You would still want some kind of security product potentially out there to prevent infections. We're just, in case it's a 0-day attack and it got in there and encrypted some data, we're going to let you know.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Now here we can see at the dashboard, we can actually go out and run a report and look for those anomalies. So not only do we have the emails, but we can come in here, we can look, we can drill in, we can see that Chris Bayne is a very bad offender of this. And that's because, I'm a technical guy. I'm always putting new files on there, changing files. So I'm of course going to be pushing the limits of that threshold.
A question. I'm Lino Telera. And what about the action? So if you catch the alert, are only the email notification an available action, or there are some integration or something similar that can be integrated with the company?
So we do offer API integration, so you would be able to grab that via an API if you had something else you could plug into that. But here's actually a great remediation slide. It's my next slide, actually.
Okay.
So we can recover from pretty much any point within 4 clicks of you being able to find, all right, when did I get infected? 4 clicks from that, you can be pushing data back out to your client that you know is not infected.
Okay, got it.
Now, a couple extra things that we do to help protect you. We're going to help prevent it. We're going to help treat it and secure that data. Now, what do I mean by that? Prevention. So a new term that's flying around a lot is air gapping. Air gapping basically means let's make sure that if ransomware gets into my environment or something like that, it can't affect my backups. Now, we do that because we have a client-based setup. So there's no way for it to get into that client, get up to the Infrascale cloud, and then encrypt that data. So that helps to air gap that between that local infection that might even spread to your NASs or to your locally attached drives. There's no way for it to spread through that client up into the cloud. We're just going to see that as a different cloud. Now, when we look at treat, we help you guys to keep unlimited versions of that data. And you know what's actually amazing about the way that we do this is we don't charge you for all those versions. We just charge you for the largest version of the file that's out there. So I know we're not jumping into licensing on this, but it's one of those things I want to point out. That is definitely a benefit to the way that we do this. And then last but not least, we help secure that data. So worst case scenario, if say someone got hacked, I got hacked and they got into my laptop and they found my passwords.txt file, which of course no one has. And they were able to find my credentials to log into the Infrascale dashboard. Well, you can actually control it so that users can't delete their own data. So even if they got fully compromised, their credentials got hacked, everything's done, they still can't delete their own data. You still have a copy you can recover for them, which is great as an administrator or as an MSP that's managing that customer. Now, as we talk about MSPs and customers, let's jump into a little story about an MSP that we actually work with here. So we have an MSP that sells point of sale solutions to retail customers, right? So if we go into a store and we try and run our credit card and they say that system's down, what do? We leave, we go to the closest other store that has that item and we purchase it. Well, they had 5 different of their retail clients get hit with ransomware in about a 2-month span. Now, 3 of them were using our solution to protect their data, and 2 of them were using a competitor. Now, from the MSP that we talked to, the 3 that were using ours were back up and running within hours and able to start processing customer orders. Where the 2 that weren't were down for a couple of days. So we're looking at, they were guessing it was about $141,000 they lost because they were down for multiple days. So we're looking at, by using the solution, you're moving from an inconvenience, being down for a couple hours, to an actual outage, an actual disaster event where you're down for days, and now you're losing customer mind share, you're losing all those sales for those couple of days. So it's a great example of where having a solution in place and the right solution that can recover the data helps you to get back up and running in hours, and that's really important to preserving those businesses.